Hello, so on today's video I will be making an outfit assembly table to my workshop. As you can see, the shop is a bit of a mess as I have a couple of machines, some wood laying around, but I don't really have any work surface where I could assemble things and work on things that I'm building. So this is a well needed and quite simple project to do. To begin with, I start by taking some measurements out of the table saw that I have, because I want the table to be as wide as the table size, and then taking some measurements to visualize how deep I would want the table to be, and I ended up deciding it to be 1 meter deep. I think most of the things that I will be building should fit on it quite easily. And also important to remember to take the measurement that how tall the table saw is, because I want the table to sit flush with the table saw. And then it's just a matter of starting to build the frame. I will be building the frame from 2x4s, which are just this construction grade pine tree, so nothing fancy on this table. And I will be just making these cuts by a circular saw. I think it would be easier to make repeatable cuts with a chop saw, but as I don't have one, the circular saw will just have to do. And as the frame build is quite simple, I don't think it matters if there is 1 or 2 millimeter difference between some of the pieces. And once I had cut all the pieces, then it was time to start drilling some pocket holes. I will be assembling the frame by using some pocket holes and glue, as this is a shop furniture, so I don't really think it matters if it's done this way. And to make the pocket holes, I'm using this jig that you need to clamp down to the workpiece, and it's rather easy to use, and it doesn't matter how thick the piece is that you want to drill on as you clamp it on to the piece. And now that all of the pocket holes were drilled, I needed to start put the frame together, and as I don't have a work surface at the shop, I need to do this on the floor again. And to make the assembly a bit easier, I'm using some clamps to hold the pieces together. And like I mentioned earlier, in addition to using the screws, I'm also putting some glue to the joints as well. Not really sure if this is necessary, but I thought that at least it doesn't hurt if I put some on it. And once I had the glue on the piece, I just put the clamp on to hold it in its place, before adding the screws to the joint. And as you can see, I made 2 of these, one to be at the top of the table and one to be at the bottom of the table to add some strength to the build, and also I can attach a shelf to the bottom of the table to store some things as well. And next I mark the center of the legs and drill a hole to them with a Forstner bit. I will be adding these adjustable legs to these so I can match the table saw height correctly, and because the floor isn't even, so I can make sure that the table is level. I was planning to use screw-in bolt holders, but they only had these push fit ones at the local hardware store that I went to, so I just went with them. Next, I needed to measure and make a mark where I would want the table frame to land on the legs. And then I attached the legs to the frames with few screws. And now that the frame was built, I attached these adjustable legs to the table and then flipped the table on its right side. And if you've made it this far, it would be highly appreciated if you leave a like to the video, and if you want to see more of these videos, remember to subscribe to the channel as well. And I will be making the tabletop out of some 18mm birch plywood. And to cut the plywood to size, I'm using Greg's AccuCut jig with my circular saw. And I can already see that it's much easier to make these cuts and work on a higher surface now that I can use the table frame as a surface. And as the rail is too short for the other cut, I'm using again another grit jig, but this time the rip cut one. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm adding a shelf to the bottom of the table, and for that I'm just using 6mm pine plywood. And to fit the bottom shelf, as the table legs are within the frame, I needed to make some cutouts to the shelf. And putting the shelf on its place was a bit easier as the plywood was so thin so it could bend a bit. And to attach the tabletop to the frame, I'm using these corner metal pieces that I will be just screwing into the frame and then screwing onto the tabletop. And here you have a clip of me maneuvering to the underside of the table to attach the tabletop to the frame. And I am not planning to do any cuts through the tabletop, so it doesn't really matter if there are screws in the tabletop. And to attach the bottom shelf, I just used a nail gun to put in a few nails to hold it in its place. And even though this is a shop furniture, I thought that it would be nice to protect the plywood edges and put some edge banding to it. And as I had these pine boards laying around in the shop, I thought that I could rip some of them and use them as an edge banding. Unfortunately, the camera battery died right about here, so you don't have any video of me doing that, so you'll just have to imagine how it went. And then to attach the edge banding, I'm using some glue and then the nail gun to secure the edge banding on its place while the glue is drying up. And then to make the corners flush, I'm using the Japanese bull saw just to trim off the excess. And to break down the edges, I'm just using a hand plane to do it. And even though the edge banding is made out of this rough pine wood, it still adds nice touch to the table, I think. And now that the table is starting to be ready, it was time to make sure that it's flush with the table saw and level as well. And to finish the tabletop, I will be adding this DC Fix adhesive plastic thing on it. I was planning on adding some Formico laminate, but unfortunately it's really hard to get here where I'm living, so I just ended up going with this. And I think this will add some more protection to the tabletop, and it will be way easier to get some glue and any dirt like that off from the table. And the good thing is that if I want to switch for the Formico, it's rather easy to get this off from the table at some point as well. And with that, the table is now ready. And I think adding the DC Fix on the top adds a nice touch and some contrast to the light wood as well. And I must say that I really like how the table came out at the end, and just from a practical point of view, it's been really nice to have a work surface where you can work on, where you can do the glue ups and have somewhere to work instead of the floor, and that's really nice. I also moved the jointer planer to the other side of the workshop, so now I can easily attach the dust collection from one place to both the table saw and to the jointer as well. I still need to add some more storage to the workshop to have better places for all the tools and for the lumber as well, but I think this is a good start for now. But let me know what easy project you've made for your workshop, and that's all for this time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.